You can have your whole plan as a homeschool mom for the week, and you are so pumped about your plan, and you think you know exactly what you're going to do, and then somebody has the audacity to get sick.
Welcome to the show called Let's Talk Homeschool, brought to you by Apologia Educational Ministries. We're your hosts, Davis and Rachael Carman, and today's show is titled A Week in Washington, D.C., the nation's capital. Okay, Rachael, let's talk homeschool.
Yeah.
So literally just last week, we were in the nation's capital, Washington, D.C., for a whole week.
Right.
With several things and activities, starting with the inauguration, time to visit family that we have in the area, and then the March for Life. Mm-hmm. So we're going to talk about all three of those today, starting with the inauguration of our 47th president, Donald J. Trump, and Vice President J.D. Vance.
Yeah.
So we had tickets.
We did. From our senator.
From Senator Ted Budd of North Carolina, who actually served on the North Carolinians for Home Education board with us 20 plus years ago. I actually recruited him before I knew anything about him.
Yeah.
We became fast friends, and it was also quickly apparent that he was meant for greater things. He was going to go up in the world in a lot of ways, and then he ran for U.S. Congress, not in our district, but we supported him because of our relationship, and he served in the north central part of North Carolina for 6 years. Then there was a vacancy in our Senate seat, and he ran. We went to lots of functions to support him in that campaign, and he's finished 2 years, starting his third year as our senator from North Carolina. And his office got us seats for the outdoor viewing of the inauguration. But what happened?
Then it went indoors. And I'm going to say, we've talked about this. I mentioned it several times. I am not a cold weather lover. I'm a Texas girl, and I love the heat. And I got to say, I ordered some pretty serious long underwear for the event. I was gearing up to be cold outside because I think the high was supposed to be like a whopping 24, but I feel like maybe 18.
That was the high.
That was going to be the high, and then it was going to be cloudy, and then maybe a little bit of sunshine, and then sunny, but we all know that at 24 degrees, it's not going to knock a lot of chill off of that. So I cannot say that I was too terribly sad when they told us that it was going to be moved inside.
Right. So a lot of that happened pretty quickly.
It did.
We didn't get the official news that it had moved indoors until a few days before we left. We left on the Saturday before the Monday inauguration, and it wasn't until Saturday or Sunday when I got, it was Sunday actually, when I got the phone call. It was a DC number, so I took the call not knowing who it might be. Sure enough, it was Senator Budd's office telling us that because it was moved indoors, the seating had been severely limited as a result. And we're not a congressman, we're not a representative, so it was
family.
It was pretty much limited to the folks that are serving to be in the rotunda, considerably smaller space than what was going to be outdoors. So we have family up there. We have.
But wait. Part of that phone call was they're still going to mail us the tickets.
Oh, true. Yeah, we don't have them in our hand yet. Maybe they'll come tomorrow.
Yeah.
But they're going to mail us the tickets as a memento, souvenir, keepsake. So we are looking forward to that. I didn't think about waiting to do this podcast until we had them in our hands.
Yeah, we'll have to post that somewhere. So we're pretty excited about that. I mean, I think that's kind of cool. I'd never even thought about going to an inauguration before, but this was one I was pretty excited about. He said a lot of things that I think are good for the unborn and for education, frankly. And so really excited to see him inaugurated. And so we couldn't go outside. So we went over to our daughter's house.
Right. We have two kids living in the D.C. area, our son and daughter-in-law and 3 grandchildren, plus our daughter. So we went over to our daughter's house, who was able to be home that day because it was Martin Luther King Day. So she had the day off of work. Yeah. And we spent it with her in her house with her roommates, watching the inauguration, having lunch. It was a great day just to relax. And, we did the inauguration indoors like a lot of people did watching it. But that was our dedication. That's what we did.
And there were lots of moments in this. We stayed for all the speeches, all the pomp and the circumstance, and I watched his speech, and it was great to be with her roommates and with her and really listen to what he had to say. And then I think the best moment, and I'm not the first one to point this out, the Carrie Underwood moment with God Bless America. that was a great moment. It was really great to see her professionalism come out. I loved that she said, okay, folks, y'all know the words, help me out here. And to hear everyone sing a cappella, I mean, it was far better than any musical accompaniment.
Yeah, she hit it out of the park with that.
But everybody did. It was great to be a part of that, to be reminded that this is our nation and God bless America. One other time we had an experience like that.
Yes.
So I think it was the opening game.
The inaugural Major League Soccer game here in Charlotte.
And our youngest two boys are huge soccer fans. And so we got tickets to take them to this game. It was a really big deal. They were really pumped. We were really pumped. And when it came time to sing the national anthem, they had an individual on the field to sing, and her mic went out.
Like 10 seconds into the song.
I don't even know it was that. I mean, maybe it was not that far. I don't know how many words she got out, but the audience picked it right up.
And was the cool part is we set a major league attendance record with 74,000 plus people in the stadium.
Right.
74,000 people belting out together the national anthem. It was moving.
It was an awesome moment. So I think that was still the best moment. I will just say.
Well, we were right there in the audience when it happened.
Right, but this was really a tight second. I mean, this was a moment where,
and it wasn't the Star Spangled Banner. It was God Bless America.
Yeah.
But yeah, she did a great moment in that.
To see her handle it so well, see the audience come around her and do the whole thing. It was really a great moment. Right. So I love that.
Yeah. So again, we were spending the whole week in DC.
Yeah.
So we do not turn our TV on in the morning, but Tuesday morning, because we're there in DC, we watched the inauguration. We're in our nation's capital. We were sitting there having our breakfast, and we thought, you could tell we were reading each other's mind, like, I know we don't normally turn the TV on in the morning, but it'd be kind of nice to see what's happening in the political front.
Well, but I wanted to see the gowns. I wanted to see what Melania wore, frankly. I was interested to see her dress because I know that it is. So I was really fascinated by her hat because it's tradition for the First Lady to wear a hat. And hers was really low, but I had a hat like that. I don't know if you remember that. But I had a hat like that, sort of that bolero, really low-rimmed hat that I used to wear a lot. I think I still have that. It's black. Anyway, so I thought her hat was great, and I know there's been some controversy on it. I thought it was great. But I know that at the inaugural ball, the First Lady always wears white. And so I remember the gown that she wore the first time, and I was really interested, frankly, in what her dress looked like. And I thought, as usual, she looked really classy.
She did.
And really elegant. And I thought J.D. Vance's wife, Usha, looked beautiful in her gown as well. And I think J.D. and Usha are doing a great job staying in their lane, supporting, and they're not, competing with Donald. I don't know how you compete with the Donald, but they're doing a great job supporting them and everything. And it was great to see them. Right. I love the dance part.
So we started the week with the inauguration.
Right.
Then the middle of the week.
Wait, before you even do that though, because I forgot to mention this before we were on air. We had an unexpected thing happen. Our daughter ended up sick.
Oh, that's right.
So, I mean, and it was such this is going to be where I slide in the whole issue of home education. So you can have your whole plan as a homeschool mom for the week, and you are so pumped about your plan, and you think you know exactly what you're going to do. And then somebody has the audacity to get sick.
So I'll tell you the plan.
Yeah.
The plan was Monday inauguration.
Right.
Outdoors. It moved indoors.
It did.
Wednesday, we're going to spend time with family. We're going to do breakfast with our son, daughter-in-law, and grandkids, dinner with our daughter.
Right.
Friday would be the March for Life. And so what are we going to do Tuesday and Thursday?
We are just going to relax.
We're going to relax, get some work done.
Right. It's going to be great. Yeah.
But what happened Tuesday? Our daughter
was sick. She had the head cold flu, the body aches, the whole nine. And so I got the call pretty early. My kids know that I'm an early riser, and I am honored when they take advantage of that and call. I get lots of early morning phone calls. It's funny, too, because occasionally I can sleep past like 4:30 or 5, and notably that's when they'll call at 4:30 or 5. But she called pretty early, and I could tell clearly that she was not well. So I spent almost all of Tuesday.
Yeah, we thought we were going to stay put in our Airbnb that Tuesday, but I'm driving her, 1.5 miles, which takes about 15 minutes in Washington, D.C. to take her to our daughter's house, come back, because we took our dog, Dixie, with us because it was a whole week, and she's just a puppy. So I came back to check on the dog and to spend time with her. Then I come back to get Rachel.
We had to go get.
So Tuesday, I went to the grocery store. It was not the day we anticipated.
It was not, but that's just how it is in homeschooling.
Right.
And so I do feel like through the process of homeschooling, I don't look like her, but I feel like I've become Elastigirl. I feel like I've learned how to just, with the ebb and flow, this is what we're doing. It's not exactly what we thought it was going to be, but it was fine. And frankly, who likes to be sick by yourself in an apartment or all by your house somewhere? Because we had another.
Well, all of her roommates went back. Everybody went back to work on Tuesday, and our daughter was now at her house by herself, sick. That's no fun.
It's no fun. So I was really grateful to be able to be there with her and take care of her. So that was Tuesday. A little different than we thought it was going to be, and it ended up affecting Wednesday night. But Wednesday morning we got to go see our grandkids.
That's right. So Wednesday morning we go see our 8, 6, and 2-year-old grandkids, and they're expecting number 4, but they made us waffles.
They did.
And they were so excited to make breakfast for Coco and Pops. That's our name. And so we spent a nice morning with them, visiting, talking, playing Legos, reading some books, taking some pictures, just relaxing. It was very relaxing. It was very, very nice morning. And in the evening, we were supposed to go to dinner at our daughter's house with her roommates. And because she was just recovering and still not doing very well Wednesday,
she came over to our house and she had dinner over at our house that night. So that was lovely. Yeah. And then Thursday was kind of the day we thought it was going to be. Right. It was just, we just hung out at the Airbnb all day.
And did some reading, working.
Yeah, did some work and just, it was so brutally cold. I just had to come back.
It was in the teens.
And we were at an Airbnb in which we had no control over the temperature. And I had a very difficult time.
With radiator heating.
I was just.
And so, it was hard to get the temperature right because our dog, Dixie, decided essentially to get up 3 in the morning and 5 or 6 in the morning.
Yeah.
Maybe it was more like 2 or 3 in the morning. But so I'm getting up in 11-degree weather.
You were the man. I mean, you were going out
for 15 minutes with her, then coming back, and then 5 o'clock, which is kind of our wake up time anyways. But we were on kind of a vacation, so we weren't forcing ourselves up and getting about the day. We were waking up more relaxing. But I'm getting up early with her again and taking her out.
But we were watching the weather because
we were.
Before we got to DC for the march, I mean, I was anticipating the whole inaugural thing, and I ordered fleece-lined long underwear, and I've got the head muffs, and I've got the gloves with the liners. I mean, I've got it all, because it was supposed to be 40. It was supposed to be like 37 or something for the march with sunny skies. And we've done the march for years and years and years, and I thought, well, that's not so bad.
Right.
I can do this. Right. But as the week progressed, those numbers went down.
Right. So we did one other unexpected activity on Thursday because we got an email on Thursday. This is the exciting letdown part of the podcast.
True.
So the email said that because we were sponsors for the March for Life, and I'll talk more about this when we talk about Friday, but here's our sponsor badge that we got Friday when we went to the march. But because we were sponsoring the march, we got invited to a private meet and greet with Vice President J.D. Vance.
Well, him, and we were already going to be in the tent, the
with
backstage
congressmen
tent,
and
with
senators.
Congressmen and with all the lineup speakers,
and the speakers
at the March for Life. So it was going to be Lila Rose, Bethany Hamilton, Senator Smith, and a couple of other lesser knowns, but speakers that were going to be at the rally before the actual march. And so we already knew, and we'd gone to the congressional breakfast that morning, which means that they showcase all of the conservative, pro-life members of Congress come in and they get to speak for literally, they give them a minute. But it's really nice to meet some of them.
But we got 20 or 25 people gave a 1 or 2 minute speech.
And then the leadership of March for Life, so Jeannie Mancini, who's the outgoing president of March for Life, and the new incoming president, Jenny, she was there. And so we're getting to meet the leadership at the breakfast, but then they're telling us, in addition to that, J.D. Vance is
right, because he was a last minute invitation that accepted as a speaker. So we knew he was going to be a speaker earlier that week, but on Thursday we get an email saying, okay, because he's going to be a speaker on stage, we're going to have a private meet and greet. So we need to do some security checks and background checks, and we need all this information from you. Yeah. So they're taking our Social Security, driver's license, passport, birth dates, you name it, and checking on the whole background.
And not just us, anybody who would have been there. So anybody with one of these badges, and there's other more important people than us that were there.
Yeah. So we were super pumped and quietly thinking, "Oh my goodness!"
Awesome. But they also said we couldn't tell anybody.
We couldn't tell anybody because it was confidential. So we thought, we know that he has a book out, Hillbilly Elegy, and there's a movie based on that book. We probably ought to watch that just to have a little bit extra background on his life before we go to meet him. So that was one unexpected activity we did Thursday. Was we watched that movie, got a really good sense of his background, which is fascinating.
Really tough.
Really tough. Really tough.
And I have to say, I don't know that it's a movie. I started the book and then I lost it. So I don't know what that was about. And that's been several years ago. But I was going to read it just knowing that he was the vice president. And so we sort of skipped reading it and watched the movie, which we do not ordinarily do. We would usually read a book before we watch the movie. But in this instance, we felt like we wanted the backstory, and several people had commended it to us. And I got to tell you, my respect for him really went through the roof watching the movie. It's not a movie that I'm going to say you need to rush out and watch. It's rough. It's really, really rough. The language is really rough. The circumstance, the storyline, it is tough. But his tenacity and his perseverance and his fight to rise above his circumstance is notable and quite respectable. And so I was really glad that we had that point of reference. Even that we didn't get to meet him, even just knowing his backstory as he's coming into the White House, because it's been a rocket for this young man.
He's 40 years old. He's Vice President of the United States.
He was only in Congress 2 years.
2 years as a senator from Ohio.
And now he's Vice President. I mean, we need to be praying for him. That is quite a life change, especially when you understand his backstory and how he's just catapulted. If anybody was an overnight thing, it's J.D. Vance.
Right. So that all happened Thursday. Then Friday morning, we get up. There's an email that was sent at 2 a.m. I didn't tell you the time the email was sent, saying that sadly his schedule is going to be tweaked a little bit, and we're not going to get to do the meet and greet. But he's still going to speak. But you're going to see him from a distance. Yeah. Because security. He's the vice president. Right. So that was Thursday. So then Friday, we're there for the March for Life. Right. And this is a full day. We went to bed early Thursday knowing we got a full long day on Friday, starting with the breakfast at the Capitol Club, right next to the Capitol. It's the Republican Capitol Club. And there was about 65 people in attendance for this breakfast. 20 plus congressmen and senators came in and gave a 1 to 2 minute speech, just lightning round, and varied messages. Some told personal stories, some told just they've been in the fight for 20 years. Congressman Chris Smith, since the early 80s, for 40 years, in this battle as a strong champion for pro-life. So we're hearing from them, we're meeting several of them, and we actually got to sit next to Jeannie Mancini's husband, David.
Yeah, that was such a blessing.
That was great just to have some personal conversation with him, get a chance to just, know how to pray for them as she's leaving 12 years of ministry in that organization, waiting to discern what God's calling her to do next. Yeah. And she's been training the new president, Jenny, to come in and take place. So the morning was the breakfast.
Well, 2 hours I just want to say, those stories, I really think, as tough as this fight has been on the pro-life issue, and especially when we've seen in the Republican side some movement in what we believe to be the wrong direction in terms of the pro-life movement, I got to say, we really need to be praying for those congressmen and women, because they are literally on the front lines, and theirs are the stories and the voices that do not get reported in the media. And we need to be reminded that there are many pro-life congressmen and women who are fighting this battle every single day.
Right.
And the name of Christ was boldly proclaimed. Two of them, one is Speaker of the House Mike Johnson, but had a very personal abortion story where it was his parents were like, not his parents weren't considering abortion, but other people said, you might want to check that out. And Mike Johnson, he could have been aborted. And so there's no telling who has been murdered in all of the abortions that have taken place. And we need to make sure that we're doing our part, which is praying for these men and women on the front lines.
Exactly. Yeah, it was quite moving because the Dobbs decision reversed Roe versus Wade in June of 22. So when we were at the Capitol breakfast in January of 23 and January of 24, especially last year, the House had a Republican majority.
Yeah.
The Senate did not. And so part of what they were talking about a year ago is we need to put we plan to put some bills out there that are like no-brainers.
Right.
For instance, a Born Alive bill, so that, because nobody would vote to kill a child who was born from a botched abortion. Well, the week we were there this week, they got that bill in front of Congress, passed it finally, but 204 Democrats voted against it, voted to let a child die who survived an abortion.
There was only one
amazing.
Democrat who crossed the line.
That's
it
true.
was a gentleman from South Texas, I believe.
That's right.
And I don't remember his name, but I want to look it up. That man
They mentioned his name several times because he's on their side on that.
And and so that man needs to be celebrated.
Yeah.
And I wonder how long he'll stay on the other side of the aisle because, I mean, that is a brutal thing to vote against.
And my big takeaway from the breakfast was that the Republicans that spoke said, we are not going to squander this opportunity that we have with the House, the Senate, and the White House to get some bills passed that further the pro-life cause in a active, proactive way, not to sit back and not do anything way.
Right.
So
I was very encouraged, and I think that breakfast is always encouraging to me to hear their stories and firsthand battle line fights.
So that was Act 1 of a 3-act day. The middle act, Act 2, was the march and rally itself. So being sponsors, again, here was the badge that we got to wear and carry to let us into a private tent. And in this tent, there was heat, for one.
Yay!
And the speakers for the day.
Right.
A senior from Wheaton College.
Oh, she was remarkable. I don't know if any of you
she
got
did
to
a great,
watch.
great job.
Yeah, she was remarkable.
Understated in many ways, but she was wonderful. We got to meet Delilah Rose, got our picture taken with her. She's got a ministry called Live Action.
Seth Gruber, we haven't mentioned him yet.
We met Seth Gruber. He was not one of the speakers there. He was a sponsor, but he wrote a book called The 1916 Project, which we do highly commend to you to read.
It's outstanding.
Outstanding, but it's basically a history of the abortion industry.
Right.
Gives you a lot of insight as to how did we get here today 100 years later. It's very telling.
And it connects dots and people and events that you would not ordinarily know were actually connected. And so it's good to know that. It is a very contrived and dark history.
Right. Well, one of the other speakers at the rally who was in the tent was Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida. And we have a daughter, a son-in-law, and a grandson who live in Jacksonville, Florida. So people were trying to
hoping to get
a picture with him.
Yeah. He wasn't in there long.
He wasn't in there very long because we were about 10 people deep, then 4 people deep. I got some good pictures of him. And I thought when we're 4 people deep, we're going to get to shake hands and get our picture with him. And then they whisked him away because it was getting closer to the time for speakers and we didn't get our opportunity. But you could overhear, we were literally 8-10 feet away from him. He's talking to other people, giving them the time of day with his family and his entourage that took him to his next event.
Well, and in his subsequent speech, he highlighted the fight they had this last year in Florida, which they won, but narrowly.
Right, because it had to get a 55 or 60% vote to pass. 53% of the population in Florida, with Governor Ron DeSantis against this bill, voted to pass it, which would. Fortunately, it didn't pass, which kept Florida very pro-life. But if it had passed, it would have put pro-abortion as part of their constitution, I believe, something that we didn't want to see.
Yeah, and it's just another indication that this is a fight. We're not done with this. Dobbs did not end this.
Right.
We really all need to make sure that we're in this. Yeah.
And so our daughter was well enough by Friday to find her way through security, find her way to the tent. She couldn't get in the tent, but I went out the tent, met her out there. So Rachel was closer to the stage. Savannah Ann and I were a little further from the stage, but I got some great pictures right by the big screen of J.D. Vance giving his presentation as well as the other speakers. Then after the speakers, then was the march. So we marched from the Washington Monument to the Supreme Court building.
In a different way this year.
A slightly different way, because normally we go past the Capitol, then up to the Supreme Court and turn right. This time we zigzagged, turning right in front of the Capitol and then left in front of the Supreme Court building. But we still got there.
I think they wanted us to see how pretty the Capitol was with the flags draped for the inauguration. I mean, it was a beautiful picture. We got a few pictures there.
And I think it also allowed for a better end of the route to then go eat,
That's true.
Get your car,
That's
get
true.
to an Uber,
Break it up.
get up. But tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of people.
Haven't heard a number yet.
Haven't heard a number yet, but there was as many as ever.
Yeah.
So my estimate would be over 100,000.
Yeah. Oh, I think maybe hundreds. Yeah, it was a great turnout. And again, it's just a great thing to see so many young people. If you've never been to the March for Life, I would challenge you to make it a goal to take your family and go, get some friends and go. It will not disappoint. It is so worth it and so encouraging. So many colleges have their own groups of young people that come and they march, and they have their own little like cheers that they yell through. There's
different banners,
drum band,
saying
and all
where
these
they're
different.
from.
It's really a powerful thing to be a part of. And they said that it's the largest gathering for human rights in the world. Why not go and be a part of that? Some people do it annually. We've been able to do it annually for about 10
plus consecutive years, and then there were a few years non-consecutive that you went prior to that.
Yeah.
So you've probably been a dozen, maybe 13 times, but this was our 10th consecutive year to go, not counting 2021 when it was not in person because of COVID.
Yeah.
But then that was the middle of the day.
Yeah.
So at this point, it's 3 o'clock. We haven't eaten since 7 in the morning, or it's 2 o'clock technically. And I said, folks, we need to eat. And there's hundreds of thousands of people here that are hungry. So we walked to Union Station, which is the big train station. There's lots of restaurants there, and we nabbed a spot.
Well, I think we knew what we were doing. I think a lot of people from out of town did not know. So here's a little secret. At the end, go directly and get somewhere. Don't dilly-dally. And
there were waves of people coming and going into there.
It was standing room only by the time we left.
Yes.
And I mean, not standing in line, just standing. So you kind of have to have a plan at the end of the march. But then we only had like this long to do something amazing.
Right. So that we finished by 3:30 eating. We're not famished, but we have to get to Act 3, which is the Rose Dinner Gala, which is 1,000 plus people coming to a major dinner and program to conclude the March for Life Day with all the sponsors. It's a black tie event, fancy dresses, and it starts, there's a reception at 6 and the program starts at 7. It's 3:30 and we have a 30 plus minute drive up to our Airbnb, a 30-minute drive back. So we're under the gun.
That's the understatement of the day.
So we catch an Uber, drop off our daughter, get to our Airbnb a mile and a half further. And by the time we freshened up and got dressed and ready, there was no sitting down and relaxing. It was get the next Uber and get back down there.
Well, and just ladies, surely you can appreciate this. We're talking hat hair, right? I mean, did we mention it was cold during the march? I mean, I could not feel my knees down. I could not feel my hands. My nose was frozen. I had a hat down over my ears. And we get back to the Airbnb, and I'm supposed to get into an evening gown, and I have hat hair. So we're talking about bippity boppity boo. I've got to work a miracle to go and not embarrass this man. And so
she did it. She did great.
We did it. I had my little magic wand, also known as a curling iron, and we worked a miracle, and we dashed back out.
Well, we were hoping to get to the hotel by 6:15. Maybe 6:30, and we got there at 7:05.
Yeah, because the traffic in DC
was heavier,
really
but,
crazy.
Well, and security had come further out because the Uber by the time he got close, it had to reroute him around the security. That added another 10 minutes unexpectedly. Otherwise, we'd have still been there at 6:55, which was kind of tight.
We arrive, and that's lovely and everything. We arrive, but we're late. Excuse me.
Nice, Miz, but there's people outside, so I'm not feeling too bad
right now.
But the
first, I would say she was preliminary. Was she the first speaker, or was she like the warm-up speaker?
It was some kind of warm-up speaker.
So there was somebody speaking, and I think they were going a little long, and that's fine. But they were going, and everybody else is seated. There might be like 20 or 30 of us who are, coming in. Okay, so our table literally is table number 1.
Front and center.
Front and center. So there's no way to sort of gracefully just sort of blend into the back row. That's not how this works. We are front and center. And as God would have it, and I'm so grateful, I was actually seated by the incoming new president for the March for Life and several of the board members for March for Life. And we had the most delightful evening of visiting and getting to know her and her heart, met her husband. And it was lovely.
And it was lovely. It was a ticketed event.
Right.
And our daughter joined us. I got a ticket for her.
And she's been very involved in pro-life. So
she
it
has
made
been.
sense.
And she was with us last year.
Right.
But we get to the table. There's 3 empty seats. Makes sense.
There's 3 empty
for the
seats,
3 of us that are just not showing up. And our daughter goes to the one that's not with the other 2. And they say, oh, somebody's husband is sitting there. Oh, okay. Well, that's fine. So she comes around and sits down in the chair next to my wife. And being a gentleman, I'm standing there, and we spread the chairs apart. They say, we'll make room for you. And I'm thinking to myself, that's great to have room, but there's not a chair here.
Sure. Did we mention that it was front and center? So Davis is standing.
But I get down on one knee, and I'm fine. And they arranged to go get somebody to get a table or to get a chair for me. But it took a while. And I'm there on one knee. After a while, I switch knees, and I'm doing fine.
Did you get a salad?
Then I did. Well, I did eventually.
Okay.
But there's no food in front of me, which was fine. I wouldn't have been able to eat it. Then I switched knees again, and there was a moment I quietly thought to myself, I'm not 20 years old anymore. I don't know how long I can just stay on a knee or alternate knees here. It's starting to affect me. And then finally, a chair came. Yeah. I was very grateful.
Very, very grateful.
It
was a truly lovely evening to sit there with men and women who are literally on the front lines. So the March for Life, I think they're in a really sweet spot in terms of ministry and pro-life ministry, because they just sort of serve as the umbrella for everybody else. This big event that all the other organizations and groups can come under, and all their sponsors and all their participants can come under. So Lila Rose's ministry, Seth Gruber's ministry,
Students for Life,
all
many of them.
All of these groups, right, can come under the umbrella of marching together in solidarity for the unborn. And so just to listen to some of the history and what God has done and his faithfulness, it was just over and over. They were like, this is the work of God. We're just happy to be working with God. This is answered prayer. Look what God has done. It was really a blessing to be there with them and to hear their stories and to be seated that way. We might need to consider posting some pictures from just the whole day, since we've told the whole story. I think they need to see hat hair, and they need to see,
Yeah, I'll definitely send our team some pictures that they can put on our social media to go along with this podcast. So that was our week in Washington, D.C., the nation's capital. The inauguration, time with family, March for Life, and all the stories you heard just now.
The March for Life is an excellent thing to get your family involved in, and we commend it to you. Pack up those kiddos and take them. Next year, we took our kids for several years, and it was a blessing to our family. Thanks for joining us today.
Well, this has been Let's Talk Homeschool, brought to you by Apologia Educational Ministries, and we've been your hosts, Davis and Rachael Carman. Until next time, we are walking by faith and enjoying the homeschooling adventure of a lifetime.